How's it going, guys? JP here, and welcome to day number 30 in my second annual 31 Days of Horror. We are wrapping up the Phantasm films, and we're moving on to Phantasm 4 Oblivion from the year 1998 with the tagline of The Sequel with Balls. Phantasm 4 pretty much picks up right after the previous installment, which was Phantasm 3. All the Phantasm films do that, which is completely cool. I don't know any other series, at least horror films, that flow so well into each other and pick up right after one another. It really is something uh, amazing that they have done that. Coscarelli, big props to him for making that happen. It makes it really feel like a saga or a big story instead of just a cheap sequel. You get that later with some of the footage used in this film from the original film, Phantasm film, unused footage. I'll talk about that in a couple seconds. But the story this time, we're following Reggie, who is pretty much pinned up against the wall by some of the spheres when the tall man basically lets him go. Reggie is kind of fed up with the whole thing. After, a decade or so of following the tall man and just, dealing with all the tall man's minions and stuff, he's just finally fed up and doesn't want to do it anymore. But Jody shows up and says, "You can't really do that. Mike's out there alone. You need to help him. You're pretty much his only friend. You're all he has. You can't abandon him now. You got to go find him out in the desert somewhere." So we cut to Mike. Mike is in the desert, in a wasteland, pretty much just looking. What is he looking for? Well, anything, really. He's looking for answers. He's looking for reasons, answers to how his brother was killed the night he was killed, trying to find out who the tall man is, where he's from, what his goals and plans are, how did it all happen. And he does find some of those answers out in the desert. But as we're cutting back and forth between Reggie kind of is, traveling along, dealing with spheres and dwarfs and other tall man minion type things. He also meets a hitchhiker, go figure. And, obviously Reggie is trying to hook up with her like he always does, which is just classic Reggie. Who does not love Reggie? He's so cool. Um, so yeah, I mean, and that's basically your story right there. We do get some backstory on the tall man, which is nice. We learn a little bit more about him. I thought it was really creepy actually, because we learn who the tall man originally was, Jedediah Morningside, and the you actually see a moment where he's Angus Scrim is playing Jedediah Morningside, and then he is playing the tall man, and looks exactly the same, no like different with makeup change or anything, but his presence and his just stare is so different compared to the two characters he's playing. It's really quite awesome. Angus Scrim is really cool. So yeah, there is some flashback scenes that we get throughout the film, and it isn't a reshot flashback scene with actors from the time that this film was made. It's actually unused footage from the original Phantasm film, which it is pretty genius the way it was incorporated into this film. I have a feeling that a lot of this film was kind of wrote around some of those scenes, but it works. It doesn't. It definitely feels natural. It flows really well, and it makes it feel like much more of a bigger picture than just a cheap fourth film in the series. A third sequel. It feels much more than that because of the way it feels like there's some big grand story that's being told. From those scenes, it just really works. It's kind of amazing actually what they how they it works so well. I mean, it's not just random like walking scenes or something that was unused. It actually has to do with the story, which is super neat. Um, yeah, I mean this one it seems like it took a step down from the comedy that was in the previous film. It also feels a lot smaller, which is kind of a drag because I really think if this one had more of a budget and was able to do more things, it could have been a really cool ending to the series. But to me, it doesn't feel like it ended the series properly. I'm still hoping for a possibility of a Phantasm 5. I know Don Coscarelli has kicked the idea around, and I would love to hear an announcement of it very soon. I mean, it's there's still time to do it, but it's getting to the point where if they don't do it soon, it's probably never going to happen. Um, but yeah, I mean, this one just it doesn't feel like the series ended properly, which just kind of sucks to me. Um, it is a nice, I guess, addition. It doesn't really feel like its own film either. It kind of just feels like a continuation of the previous films, which is kind of what you want in a weird way because you want it to feel like a continuation, but you still want it to feel like a big film and its own film and not just like a um, attachment. It really doesn't feel like its own thing. It kind of just feels like it's riding off the coattails of the previous three films, which kind of hurts it in a way. Um, and I do know that this one suffered from a low budget, which is kind of a drag. Yeah, so I mean, but I actually enjoyed it this time a lot more than I did than I previously remembered. It's been a few. I think I've only seen this one once before this, um, and you know, the fact that they was able to make what they made out of it, with such a low budget and nowhere really to take this story, they did pretty well, and I would love to see the story continue, or at least some kind of conclusion. It doesn't. I mean, they kind of do conclude it, and I guess it kind of works, but I want more. I want to see something. There's still stuff left to be explored, and you can't get that with a remake. You have to do a sequel. And I think it could totally work. So that's pretty much my review on Phantasm 4 Oblivion. I would rate this film a 6.5 out of 10, and I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, for the final day in my 31 days of horror. We're already, in the first week of November. Sorry, guys, I totally failed on this year's 31 days of horror, but hopefully I'll have the last review up tomorrow, and then we can finally move on and do something new on the channel. So see you guys next time, possibly tomorrow. Peace.